All right, perfect. All right. So let's start with just rapid fire so everyone can just get to know you. I'm going to ask a question and just give us the first thing that comes to your mind, okay? So,
Okay, cool.
if you didn't play soccer, what sport would you play?
Basketball.
Basketball, all right. Who's your favorite athlete?
Ronaldinho.
Nice, okay. And how about if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, nutrition aside, what would be your forever food?
Fajitas.
Fajitas. Okay, nice. So thanks for participating in that. I just want everyone to get to know your personality a little bit. And remember, those who are tuning in now, this is Marty Reed with Positive Coaching Alliance, and I'm here with Tommy Thompson. He is a pro soccer player for the Earthquake. So I hope everyone is tuning in. If you have questions, please feel free to add them in the comments, and we'll get to them throughout the interview. Would love to just start off on, just let us know what you've been up to. How about sports related and also non-sports related. So during this whole pandemic and this pause right now in sports, what are some of the things that you've been up to?
Yeah, I've been trying to make sure that I stay as fit as possible. I remain optimistic that the Major League Soccer season will start up sooner than later. So I've been training a lot on my own. And on top of that, I've also been busy with my YouTube channel trying to provide kids with ways that they can train on their own as well.
Yes, and I love the YouTube videos. We're going to link this in the comments as well. Those tuning in, make sure you check out Tommy's YouTube channel. He's providing so many skills and drills to help you learn and grow and get better in your skills out there on the soccer field. I've been watching some of them, and I'm not a soccer person, but honestly, after watching a few, I think I can get out there and do some things. Really, it's super great. And then also I love, not only are you teaching these skill sets, but throughout the process, you're also encouraging, everyone that's watching and keeping them pumped up and fired up. So those are really cool. Is there any activities that you've picked up, outside of sports right now during this time?
Yeah, so I got my keyboard set up over there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been working on that a little bit. I've been dancing a little bit, just trying to find different ways to have some type of creative outlets.
I love it. I love it. Working, dancing, music. Awesome. Awesome. Now, our theme for this week for Positive Coaching Alliance is the mental game. We know right now, especially during this, pandemic time, we can be affected mentally tremendously by this. What are some ways that you stay mentally tough? What are some things that you do to improve your mental game?
Looks like Vega joined in. What's up, Vega? He's a goalkeeper for our team.
Oh,
but yeah, for me mentally, I think the most important thing to focus on is the stuff that you can control. So there's a lot of things out of our control right now. This pandemic's caused havoc, but I think if you focus on getting a little bit better every single day, that'll put you in a better state. I think going on a daily run or doing a daily workout in the gym as well, it just keeps you staying active and keeps you staying productive. But there's no doubt it's more difficult to be motivated in a time like this. So I think that makes it all the more important to focus on the little things and just try to do something productive every single day.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great answer. Those that are tuning in right now, we're here with Tommy Thompson, talking about focusing on those things that we can control right now, and that's going to help improve the mental game. Absolutely. And one of the things that we talk about Positive Coaching Alliance is being a triple impact competitor. That's an athlete who not only elevates themselves, they elevate their teammates, they elevate the game as a whole. When you think about being a great teammate, I want you to think about who's that teammate that you remember most. Who's been your favorite teammate, maybe in youth years or college years, professional years? Who's a teammate that you recall kind of motivated you the most, and maybe why that teammate was one of your favorites?
Yeah, for me, it had to be my brother. I played with him for years growing up, almost from 10 to 18. I was playing with Tanner, and he was an older brother, so we got into it. We get into some fights here and there, but he always pushed me to be the best version of myself. And so he's the first person that comes to my mind, just because I think sometimes you have to be pushed and you have to tap into that competitive mindset. And Tanner definitely got that going for me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when we have worthy opponents, they make us better, especially our siblings. I mean, I grew up with my brother and sister pushing me and that competitive drive, and that takes us beyond, the playing field as well. What are some things that you do now with your teammates to stay connected during this time?
Yeah, so we have a WhatsApp group, which helps. We got one with the coaches and one without the coaches too. So we stay connected through that, and that's nice as well. But on top of that, also I live with my roommates who also are on the team. So I've been hanging out with them a lot, and working out with them too helps to keep you motivated.
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with your teammates and keeping you guys holding each other accountable. That's great. Those that are just tuning in with us right now, thanks for joining. Marty Reed here with Positive Coaching Alliance. We have Tommy Thompson, pro soccer player with the Earthquakes here. Now, we talked about some challenges that you've overcome. I remember in one of your videos, you talked about how you had been an underdog for a lot of your life. You even had coaches that didn't believe in you, teammates that didn't believe in you in your past. How were you able to overcome those moments? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to self-belief. I think if you want to reach a certain level in anything, there's always going to be questions regarding if you're prepared. Because at the end of the day, coming into the league, I had so much to learn. And so you got to power through those moments where you realize that you need to improve. And so regardless of what might have been said about me and the media or whatever anyone else's opinions were, it didn't matter too much because I was just focusing on getting better. And I knew one day I'd reach a point where I can have a positive impact. And thankfully I got through the difficult moments, but I think focusing on that light at the end of the tunnel is very, very important, to have an end goal and then to work a little bit every day to continue getting closer and closer to where you want to be.
Absolutely. It kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier with focusing on those things that we can control. And that's definitely our effort, right? And making sure that we're improving every day and not paying attention to that outside noise of, a lot of time throughout our lives, people are going to be naysayers. So thank you for that advice. That's really important. And also, throughout this time, we think about making ourselves better, making our teammates better, and the game as a whole. Are there any coaches that you remember in your life that really motivated you or helped you learn, and that you kind of use some of the things they taught you now in your everyday life as well?
Yeah, my dad had a huge impact on my life. I was on a team where my brother was my teammate and then my dad was my coach. So I was essentially raised on a soccer field.
Yeah.
There's a quote from one of my favorite soccer players, Ronaldinho, the guy I mentioned earlier, and I learned all about life with the ball at my feet. And I really do think that my dad taught me everything I need to know about dedication, hard work, and what it takes to be successful and to be where you want to be. And so I think he had a huge impact on my life in youth soccer. And then even to this day, we still go back and forth about different ideas we have about my current situation.
Oh, that's great. And in those days where, it is tough, where you're feeling it, maybe like you don't feel like doing it right now, or you're really like maybe having one of those down days, what are some things that you do to stay motivated and pick yourself up in those moments?
Yeah, I try to find a way to enjoy the process. I think that's critical. I think, and that's what I try to communicate to kids. If you guys want to play soccer in college or you want to play soccer in the pros, one of the first things you got to do is like fall in love with it. And because it takes a lot of work. And if you don't have a way to actually enjoy that process and enjoy that grind,
right,
there's going to be someone else that's able to do it for longer. There's someone else that's willing to practice longer, willing to work harder, and that's where it's going to be difficult. So for me to stay motivated, I try to add in something to where it's fun. And it's a reason to get outside. It's a reason to interact with your teammates or your friends. And I think once you create a positive environment like that, it's a lot easier to continue pushing yourself to improve.
Absolutely. Yes. And I mean, sports are supposed to be fun, right? At the end of the day,
exactly.
We're doing this for fun. So thank you for mentioning that. That is so good. Now, those that are just joining us here, Marty Reed with PCA. We have Tommy Thompson, one of the forwards on the Earthquakes. And one of the challenges you mentioned to me earlier, you had a new coach that came in who spoke another language. Can you tell us how you were able to handle that? Or just some things that you did in that process with a new coach?
Yeah, that was a totally new experience for me. I didn't speak any other languages, and we brought in a coach that used a translator, which was a totally new experience, and it ended up being a huge gift for me to actually push myself in a different way, to where now I'm pushing myself on the soccer field, but on top of that, I'm actually working hard to try to learn a new language as quickly as possible. So that's been a huge blessing. And it's been really cool for me to see the locker room dynamic shift to where guys are more comfortable giving Spanish a shot. And the guys that speak Spanish, they're more comfortable giving English a shot. And everyone's just trying to meet each other in the middle. And it's really, it's almost something out of a movie. It's fun to be a part of.
That's so cool. So you all are now learning Spanish, a whole nother language, which is definitely out of a comfort zone, right? We're used to speaking our language, but then getting to know another language, challenging yourself to be able to communicate, because that's really important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of the other things that you would say contribute to that team dynamic that you guys have right now? What are some ways that you guys bond together and connect together as a team?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was talking about with how I motivate myself. I think that's actually a very similar team culture that we have right now. So whether I'm by myself or with my teammates, everyone's doing their best to try to create a positive but competitive environment. It's possible to be extremely competitive without being miserable. You know, you don't have to be completely serious. You don't have to be completely angry in order to improve. And so when we're playing games or doing different drills, it's serious, it's competitive, but at the same time, there's an undertone where there's a lot of love for the game, there's a lot of love for each other, and that's the environment you want to be in, because that's what's going to make you able to get through those difficult situations.
Yeah, yeah. What would be your favorite part about competition, and maybe something that you miss the most right now when you consider like actually being out there on the field? What's something that you miss the most, or something that you consider your favorite part about competing?
Yeah, I think for me, I definitely miss being in front of 18,000 people at our stadium at home. I think that's a special experience, and it's something I've dreamed about doing and I've worked really hard for. So to work so hard in preseason and to have it all taken away is difficult. But to me, I constantly remind myself of how I felt stepping out on that field ready to compete in front of my family, in front of all the fans. And that's something that I miss, but I constantly remind myself to just imagine the day that that's all back. And that keeps me motivated as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is coming back. So we're just in a waiting period. It's coming back. So these are some things that we're making sure that we're sharing with each other, offering support, resources, because sports will be back. And right now we are in a waiting period.
Yeah, I was going to say Brogan joined. What's up, Brogan? Had to give him a quick shout out.
Yes, give us a wave. Those are that are young athletes right now. What are some advice maybe to your younger self? Let's say if you were to go back to like when you were maybe 12, 13 years old, what is something that you know now that maybe you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, I think oh, he messaged in. What's up, man? Yeah, it's good to hear from you. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, no, I think what I would tell my younger self is to remind me that it's a marathon and not a sprint. I mean, I had all kinds of setbacks when it came to injuries or playing time.
Yeah.
And those moments were difficult. There's no doubt about it. But the reality is that if you're trying to make a career out of professional soccer, or you're trying to have a whole youth soccer career, it's over a 10, 20-year period. And so I think it's very important to not get caught up in the highs or the lows. I think it's important to stay level-headed, remind yourself of why you're doing it, and then that'll allow you to proceed in a positive way without getting too caught up in anything to where now all of a sudden you're on a high because everything's going great, and then all of a sudden as soon as it's not going great, you're on a low. I think that up and down can be really difficult to deal with, so I just focus on being level-headed and just reminding myself that it's always a marathon and not a sprint.
Oh, that's so good. So good. It's not a marathon. I mean, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. We got to keep going through, right? We got to continue to do the small things over a long period of time, because you have a long career, you know, and that longevity there's a purpose behind it, and it definitely involves taking that time to make sure that you're staying healthy and rehabbing after injury. So that's great advice for those athletes that are joining in right now. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comment section or in the question box, and I'll get to it as well throughout this interview. Again, this is Positive Coaching Alliance here with Tommy Thompson from the San Jose Earthquakes. Now, is there any moment in your life where you realize, like, okay, this is something that I know I'm going to have a future in? Is there a moment where you realize, like, I'm going to be a competitive soccer player, I'm going to be a professional soccer player, I have what it takes to be a professional soccer player? Is there a moment in your life where you realize that was going to be your future?
Yeah, I think in youth soccer, I wasn't completely wrapped up in my future. I was just focused on getting a little bit better every single day, and I was focused on enjoying the process. And so when I was cut from the ODP State team, it wasn't anything that was completely heartbreaking. There's no doubt it was tough, but I knew that it was going to take a long time for me to get good enough for people to start noticing. Yeah. I wouldn't say I got much attention as a soccer player until I was 16 or 17 years old. But then once I played in a game against the Earthquakes Academy, and after that game, the coach called me over and said, "Hey, we'd like for you to train with our first team." That was the moment where things clicked, where, okay, this could be my opportunity to where everything can change.
That's good. That's so good. And now, how has routine been a part of your daily life? Like, what are some of the things that you do consistently on a daily basis? And how can you speak to routine for those athletes that are tuning in now, coaches who are trying to set up a schedule or routine for their players?
Yeah, I like cooking now, actually, which is something I've never done before, really, as a professional. But this quarantine has given me plenty of time to learn different skills. So that's been part of my routine. What have you been cooking?
What have you been making?
I've been making like this scramble, chopping up some bell peppers, jalapenos, tomatoes, onions, all that, and throw it in a scramble. Nice. And then after that, I use the leftover vegetables and throw them in a chicken dish as well. So that's been fun being part of my routine. I've actually learned that it's relaxing cooking. So it's been a huge positive for me figuring all that out. It's a little bit overdue now that I'm 24, but that's definitely been added to my routine. And then on top of that, I put myself through, some push-up tests or pull-up tests just to like make sure I'm hitting a benchmark that I want to hit. So I'm ready to step into the Major League Soccer season whenever it does start back up.
Right. That's so good. Yeah, I mean, it's never too late to pick up a new skill, right? It's never too late to start cooking and pick up those skills. So those tuning in now, thank you.
Mark Pelosi just joined in. What's up, Mark Pelosi? That was one of my teammates from back in the day.
I love it. Hey, Mark. I love it.
Ansley's in here now. Oh, it's a party.
It is. It is. Shout out to the teammates joining in right now with us. Thank you so much. Speaking of teammates, talk to us about how we call it filling the emotional tank. So something that you do to show your teammates that you appreciate them, that you have their back, that you care about them. What are some ways that you like to fill emotional tanks, and how do you like your emotional tank filled by your teammates?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think sometimes a pat on the back goes a long way. I think in sports, jealousy plays a role at times, and I think instead of getting too frustrated about, oh, he did this or he did that, and thinking, oh, I wish I did that or this.
Right.
I think sometimes just a simple validation where it's like, hey, that was pretty incredible what you did. like if someone scores a great goal in a game, instead of thinking, oh, I wish I would have scored the goal, you're now actually just letting them know, hey, that was special. And
right.
It's something as simple as that. And I think sometimes in teams it gets lost, especially at different levels where it gets so competitive. People are so focused on their performance. I think just some comment, just a positive comment after a good performance to a team can go a long way.
Absolutely. Yes. Filling that tank is so important, because when we feel good, we play good, right? We play good.
That's right.
Yeah. How about like when you guys when you make a mistake out there on the field? Is there anything that you do? We call it a mistake ritual. Have something that you do to say like, hey, I acknowledge I just made that mistake. I'm shaking it off and I'm on to the next play. Is there anything that you do after you make a mistake to get yourself in the headspace to be ready for the next play?
Yeah, for me, the number one rule is if you lose the ball, you got to fight to win it back. And that's the mentality you got to have as a soccer player. You got to be willing to attack, and if you're willing to attack, you got to be willing to defend. So it's not necessarily that you can win the ball back immediately every single time, but it's very important that you put in that effort, and it's clear when someone puts in that effort. So as long as you're actually doing your best to try to respond in a positive way. Oh, Victor Bernard has joined in. ¿Qué pasa, Victor?
Hey.
¿Te gustó tu video ayer? Okay. And, he's one of our players from Honduras, actually. He's retired now, but he's a great guy. He had a very positive impact on my career. But yeah, no, I think it's really important to respond to losing the ball in a way to just win it back.
Nice. So great. Thanks all for joining in right now and giving us a wave, letting us know where you're tuning in from. We do have a question from the audience. I'm going to ask it now. How has coaching youth, help prepare you to be a better player? Your time right now as you've been coaching youth and helping out with your YouTube videos, how's that helped you become a better player?
That's a good question. Vega's giving me some stick for the hair. I know I don't have any clippers, man. I'm sorry. It's getting bad. I haven't had it this long since my freshman year of college. But no, it's a good question, and that's why I actually really like coaching, because it reminds me of why I started and seeing some of the struggles that the youth soccer players are going through with motivation or just knowledge of the game and what they could be doing to get better. I think being reminded of that is reminds me of where I'm at, because there's actual parallels to where I still have to learn. There's so many things I'm learning from our new coach and my teammates as well. So I think getting back to that period of just being humble enough to learn is important. And I'm constantly reminded of that where I'm actually teaching. I'm like, okay, I'm actually providing value to these kids. Yeah. That's the type of value my coach provides to me. So it's very important to be open-minded and continue to learn. Because if you think that you've made it and you don't need to learn anything else, that's where you can get into trouble. Love you too, Vega. Te amo.
I love it.
No he usado este idioma. Necesitamos hablar más. But yeah, no, it's really important, because I think being open-minded and continue to try to learn is critical.
Absolutely. And we're coming up on time here, but I did want to give you a last opportunity to share any other advice that you have for coaches or athletes or their parents of the athletes right now during this time, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, the message I'm trying to send with the YouTube channel is just to focus on development. It's a difficult time where we're away from our teams, and I'm in the same boat. I can't be with my team either as a pro athlete too, so it's tough for everybody. But for me, a huge positive for kids is if they're able to come out of this quarantine with an idea on how to train on their own. Because you're an athlete, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a national champion too, weren't you?
Yeah. Softball, UCLA.
Yeah. So you were playing at a high level, and I guarantee you, everyone in that locker room at one point learned how to train on their own.
Right.
And it's the same thing in our locker room. And so I think if kids can focus on that, and if they can now learn how to train on their own to where they have a curriculum and an idea on how to improve on their own. Yeah. Once they get back with their teams, they're now able to improve in two different ways. And so that could be a huge step forward for a lot of young athletes. And so that'd be my advice to players right now, is to really focus on that, because this difficult period could actually be a massive step forward in their youth soccer careers. Oh, the Earthquakes are saying hi now. What's up?
Hey, Earthquakes. Thanks for joining us as we're closing out here. And that's such great advice, because, being teammates, and that's a mutual respect, knowing that you're putting in the work when no one's watching, just like I'm putting in the work when no one's watching. And then when you come together, you make each other better. So that's a great message. Honestly, this has been super awesome. Your advice goes a long way, and it's perfectly in line with what we try to teach at Positive Coaching Alliance, which is not only making better athletes, but more importantly, better people. So that development is absolutely on point. And I just wanted to thank you for, taking your time to join us today. Thank you all those that have been tuning in, teammates, friends, family. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great weekend. All right.
Yeah, sounds good. It's great talking to you.
All righty. Take care.